Hello and welcome back. We've got our next match here in the 10th Alliance tournament, and it's Noir Mercenary Group versus Elysian Empire. Two setups, both with ECM this time. We have Noir bringing two Jaguars, two Feroxes, a Blackbird, and a Basilisk.
And then you have Elysian with two Rooks, two Thrashers, and an Orneros, and a Dramiel.
I really don't think this Elysian team is very strong. They've got a lot of ECM, but they just don't have the DPS, and the DPS that they have can't survive. Thrashers are really hard to keep alive.
And the match just started. You see the first Thrasher instantly take shield damage.
I'll note one EVE minor celebrity here flying in this match is Alexiev Card, the man who has a podcast and CSM membership, and the leader of Noir, is flying in the Basilisk for Noir right now.
You've seen the frigates start to take split damage. They pull off the Thrasher pretty quickly to go into Dramiel. And then you have the Blackbird at half shields, which instantly just get repped up. So
that Blackbird is being jammed right now by the Rooks on the other team, so it's not going to be able to do anything useful. But it looks like that Dramiel is probably going to go down before too long. It's being repped up, but oh wait, it just broke the web and scram that it got out of range, so that's going to be a much better position.
Yeah, it looks like the Basilisk isn't getting jammed at all, or the Ferox, so it's interesting to see that they're not going to try and jam the logistics, as you can see in your UI down there at bottom.
Yes, that is a very interesting.
Basilisk for Noir is in half structure now.
It's quite possible that the logistics, it just has too strong of a center strength to be jammed. But there he goes down. He doesn't have a strong enough tank. Alexiev Card, the Basilisk pilot for Noir, is down, and that's going to give a very strong position for Elysian Empire.
Yep, as you see the Basilisk go down, you're going to see this Blackbird not get the reps that it was getting, and it's going to die very quickly, while the Elysian just had their first ship enter armor, which should get taken over by the Orneros pretty.
And there goes that Blackbird. Yeah. I will say I wasn't too impressed with that Elysian setup, but they've surprised me. That they've managed to keep these Thrashers and Dramiel alive very well. The Dramiel I'm not surprised by. The Thrashers, that's something that keeping those alive is a huge challenge. Having those jams is, they're using it effectively. They've got the entire team for Noir jammed. Noirs did bring a two-race setup, which isn't too bad. Having two sets of sensor types is better than having 3 or 4. Having a single one is obviously a lot stronger against ECM, but it's just a strong showing from Elysian. I'm impressed.
I'm surprised that these frigates didn't get taken out earlier, or the frigates and the Thrasher, the Dramiel, because if they would have been able to volley those at least 1 or 2 of those frigates down, I mean that's a huge portion of DPS coming from those ECM's team.
Yep, and now we're seeing damage applied to the Ferox of McCreary. He is active tanking, it appears, so he's going to survive for a fair while, but I don't think he's going to be able to do any damage because he's just jammed all the time. So he's just going to sit there and survive. This fight will probably last a little bit longer. The Jags are going to be hard to catch, and they may also be active tanked. These Feroxes are active tanked, which is strong with a ship that has a resist bonus like this. But they're just not going to do any damage, I don't think, to the Elysian team. The Elysian just has complete superiority of E-War right now with only 4 ships against them. Yeah,
as you can see in the HUD, all the ships on the Noir side have jammers spread across them. Looks like some NOS as well. And the Feroxes are web. Once the Feroxes are around, that's a lot of the DPS that could have taken out those frigates, but if they were able to lock.
And so this also means that there's likely going to be no kills for Noir, which is going to pretty much knock them out of the tournament. Too bad, unfortunately for them. When you don't get any kills in a match in the prelims, it means you have to have a Herculean effort in the second round. It's possible that they can bring an underpointed setup, get those bonus points, take a really Hail Mary approach to it, but we haven't seen that be very successful in the past. And as we see the first Ferox die for Noir.
Yeah, just these Rooks too strong when keeping all these hostile ships jammed out that they can't apply the DPS, get to clear at least something off the field.
It is worth noting that the Rooks for Elysian Empire cost 1 more point than they would have last year. Last year, recon ships cost 13 points. This year, they're up to 14. That has been something that's reduced their value a lot this tournament. Last year, recons were extremely effective, especially Rooks and Hugins and Curses. But this year, you're still going to see a lot of them just because they are so valuable to so many setups, the utilities they can provide. But it's going to cost more, so you have to sacrifice by doing things like bringing Thrashers as your main DPS.
Well, I believe last year you saw a lot of the ECM-based teams and the six-mans as well, which is odd this year because we've only seen, this is the second one we've seen so far.
Yep. It is also worth noting that neither of the Feroxes for Noir are showing ECM effects or ECCM effects. It's quite possible they could have a low slot ECCM, they could have a sensor backup array. If they do, then that's a fine setup. If they didn't bring any ECCM at all, which we'll see from the kill board, then that was probably the mistake that made it for them. But there's no way for us to tell that until the kills start showing up on the kill board.
Yep. For the Noir group, they still have the 2 Jaguars left on the field. So very shortly, once they catch up to them with their Thrashers and Dramiel, which Dramiel's quite a fast ship.
Yeah.
So
at this point, Noir might be trying to draw a Thrasher or Dramiel outside of rep range, take him down quickly, or hug right the edge of the arena and hope that people go out. But that's really their only chance of scoring points, because there's no way that those Jags are going to be able to do any damage when they're within jamming range of the Rooks.
that'd be interesting to see if these Dramiel and Thrashers had any sort of armor plate on them or anything to give them a little bit extra buffer, that so the Inaros has that split second more to rep them.
I'd imagine you pretty much have to in this case. An armor tank setup, when you bring them in at 0 especially, if you didn't have any buffer on them, you'd probably want to bring them further back, let them tangle with just frigates in like small groups of frigates when they're ganged. But bringing them in at 0, you have to feel confident enough. They probably have a 400mm or at least 200mm plate on them.
Yeah, even with that plate, it's not that much more of a buffer that they still can get volleyed, especially if those Feroxes got off a good blaster volley.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if those Feroxes had a low slot backup array, so the low slot module that increases your resistance to ECM, then it really would have just come down to luck. Then they would have had a chance at least of locking if they'd got some early locks on those Thrashers. If you took down one, if you especially took down both of those Thrashers, that would be most of the DPS from this team done. The Rooks, when armor tanked, don't do a ton of damage. Like I've said before, they do great damage when shield tanked, but not when armor tanked. So it would have been very hard for then Elysian to just finish off all the ships from Noir. But with those Thrashers alive, they had the DPS to do it.
And this Dramiel appears to be only afterburner fit. It's only doing about 1600 meters a second. I'm not seeing any type of dual boosting where he's turning it off and bursting the MWD to try and catch up. So this match is going to take a little bit longer just for the fact that he can't keep up with the Jaguars who are going 3400 meters a second.
It's quite possible that the Noir Jaguars actually may be able to survive this whole thing, considering that, yeah, the Dramiel isn't going nearly as fast as them. We have the Jags going 3.2, 3.3 kilometers a second, and only 1.3 to 1.6 for the Dramiel, which means that the Jaguars, they're not helping their team at all by surviving, but what they are doing is denying points to Elysian. That's something you can do just out of hatred and spite, which is, as we know, the foundation of so much of this game.
Yeah, as we're talking about the speed on the Dramiel, a typical Dramiel fit will probably go about 4K. So it's definitely a huge difference. I think, like we're talking about the tanks with the frigates, that if they decide to go with the afterburners, try and get that SIG bonus and just get underneath any guns that try to track them if they brought the Varger setup or some other large gun setup.
And that being said, for teams that rely on the Dramiel to survive, if keeping the Dramiel alive is really, really important to you, doing it with an afterburner is the best way to do it. You can either dual prop it, or in this case, it's probably just an afterburner, frees up more power grid for a bigger plate, and then you've got the mids for a scram and a web, and that allows you to have a ship that is very hard to kill. I'm not surprised that they couldn't kill the Dramiel. The Dramiel, while being repped, is really, really hard to kill afterburner fit, but those Thrashers were the real weak point, and the fact they were able to keep those alive, that's what turned the match.
Well, and the great thing about the Dramiel itself is it has that drone bay compared to other frigates that don't have the capacity. It has 15 bandwidth and a 20 bay capacity, so you can throw in a few ECM drones or warriors or something in there to help your team either way.
You can indeed. So we are now down to less than a minute, 50 seconds left in the match. I don't believe either of these two Jaguars are going to die. So we're not going to see full points to Elysian Empire. They're going to miss out on the 8 points that they would have gotten if they'd killed the two Jaguars, which is going to hurt. Dropping 8 points is one of those things that can make the difference if they don't win their next match. But if they win their second match, of course, they're going to go through to the knockout rounds. And Noir, on the other hand, is going to be coming through with 0 points. That's likely going to eliminate them from the tournament. They still have a chance of a heroic Hail Mary match next week. I'm sure they're going to try their best, but we haven't seen anyone succeed in that yet, so the odds aren't with them. But we wish them luck with that and with Elysian Empire continuing forward as the match finishes now on time, and Elysian Empire wins the match on points with 42 plus their bonus for winning. And we are going to be moving on to our next match as quickly as possible. In this case, that's going to be Red Overlord and Revolution. So stay tuned for that.